Hello?
Ian.
Yo,
Hey, I have no audio on my side.
what the heck?
I literally got a notification and it said my audio was removed.
It was removed?
Yeah.
Now, audio removed means can mean you in the studio, you're just not able to speak on mic. But you can't hear nothing at all.
No, like my volume's all the way up. Like I have complete silence on my side.
Alright, this is not good, and I'm gonna have to gotta figure out what the heck is going on.
I couldn't hear y'all beforehand, and when I got that notification that I was removed,
Oh, all right. I think we are live. It is Friday, December 27th, 2024, the second day of Kwanzaa, Kujichagulia. Of course, Kujichagulia, the second principle of Kwanzaa, means to define for ourselves, to name for ourselves, to create for ourselves, and to speak for ourselves, instead of being defined, created for, spoken for by other people. Self-determination, today's principle. I'm Greg Carr, holding it down for Brother Roland Martin, who is on a much needed break, very temporary. You'll see him back next week. And here's what's coming up tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. New York's governor orders the firing of more than a dozen prison staffers over the fatal beating of an inmate. Attorney General Letitia James explains why body cam footage of the beating was released without sound. And just letting you know that we will be watching some of that footage. So a little bit of an advance warning for those of you who might want to look away. And we'll do it again when we get close to the video. Firing may be too good for these folk. The United States saw an 18.1% increase in homelessness this year. A judge says Georgia's state senate can subpoena Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, to investigate her handling of Donald Trump's prosecution. Also, we will talk about holiday wellness. We're in that little season now between Christmas and New Year's, but of course, we're on the second day of Kwanzaa. Folks may be overdoing it, may have already overdone it. Well, we're going to bring in an expert to help guide us through these next few days. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with
Man beaten in a New York prison this month was repeatedly hit by correction officers while in handcuffs, struck in the chest by a shoe, then lifted by the neck and dropped. The body worn camera footage released on Friday by the state attorney general's office shows all of this. 43-year-old Robert Brooks was pronounced dead on December 10th, the morning after the brutal assault at the Marcy Correctional Facility in Oneida County. At least 14 workers implicated in the attack will face termination, according to New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who said she was, quote, outraged and horrified by the videos of the, quote, senseless killing, end quote. The footage made public Friday by New York Attorney General Letitia James showed correction officers repeatedly punching Brooks in the face and groin as he sat handcuffed on a medical table. Let's hear from New York Attorney General Letitia James now. Here's what she said before the release of the 4 videos.
Today, my office is releasing video from the investigation into the death of Mr. Robert Brooks. Mr. Brooks had been incarcerated at Mohawk Correctional Facility and was transferred to Marcy Correctional Facility on December 9th. During the incident, he was handcuffed with his hands behind his back. He was pronounced dead at Wynn Hospital in Utica on December 10th. I do not take lightly the release of this video, especially in the middle of the holiday season. But as Attorney General, I release these videos because I have a responsibility and duty to provide the Brooks family, their loved ones, and all New Yorkers with transparency and accountability. My deepest condolences go out to Mr. Brooks's family. Under New York law, my office investigates every case in which an officer of the law, including a correctional officer, may have caused the death of a civilian. On December 16th, my office announced that it had opened an investigation into Mr. Brooks's death. As in every case, the attorneys and investigators in my office are conducting an exhaustive review of the facts and the evidence. As Attorney General, you have my word that we will use every possible tool available to us to investigate this death thoroughly and swiftly. As part of the investigation, my office obtained video from body-worn cameras that 4 of the correction officers were wearing at the time of the incident. The 4 officers had their body-worn cameras powered on, but did not activate them. So their cameras were recording video in standby mode without recording sound. My team met with Mr. Brooks's family earlier this week, and they viewed the footage. These videos are shocking and disturbing, and I advise all to take appropriate care before choosing to watch them. We are releasing 8 videos today from 4 officers' body-worn cameras. 4 videos, one from each officer, that each run for the full 30 minute length of the standby mode recording, and a second version of the same 4 videos, which have been cropped to show only footage involving Mr. Brooks and the interactions between the officers and Mr. Brooks. Again, I encourage taking caution before viewing. I want to reiterate that we are investigating this case thoroughly and using every tool at our disposal to ensure that there is transparency and accountability for the events that preceded Mr. Brooks's death. I also want to make clear that this video and the conduct of these officers should not reflect poorly on the work and professionalism of the countless correction officers and correctional facility nurses throughout the state who go to work every day to protect and serve those in their care.
Okay, as Attorney General James said, the videos are hard to watch. She cautions us to, quote, take appropriate care before viewing. They have no audio. So we have 4 videos. The first will show in its entirety. Our team, and thanks, Carol, our team is telling us that the first video from Correction Officer Michael Along's body cam is little in the vicinity of a minute, just a little over a minute long. In it, Brooks is being brought into the facility like an animal. Team, can we watch the first of the 4 videos? Did you heard General James said he's being transferred from Mohawk? This is the United facility. It's like just another day at the office for these folks. Nobody's expressing any shock from all these puffed up guys with American flags on their shoulders, milling about. Right, glitch there. Okay. The next video is from Sergeant Glenn Trombley's body cam, and it shows exactly what happened when they got Brooks in that examination room. We saw him being taken in. This video in its entirety is 6 minutes and 41 seconds. We probably won't watch the whole thing. So this is the second video. Yes, this is Sergeant Trombley's body cam as he's coming in. You heard Attorney General James say that they did not have the sound on. They were in a mode that prevented the sound from being broadcast. So they're bringing him in here. Actually, we see a little bit earlier in the brutality as he's been carried in, not under his own power. And of course, we have our panel, Friday night panel, Brother Michael Imhotep from the African History Network, founder of African History Network, and Matt Manning, of course, Attorney Manning out of Corpus Christi, Texas. So, brothers, there is no audio here. If any of either of you feel compelled to make any comments, or we just say watch, we're about 41 seconds in. It's being so obviously it's whatever time it was. So it looks like Sergeant Trombley is bringing up the rear there. Yeah, it is his. It's redacted video. Okay, now we're coming in. This is where we stopped with the first video. Michael Along. Yeah, these guys with their pumped up fake courage. No black officers. Okay, the brother is sitting upright. Looks like he may have been able to be transported under his own power, but that wasn't going to happen. We can't hear anything as they're talking to him. Uh, Matt, how unusual is this, man? Have you ever seen anything like this, or kind of bringing somebody in like that?
Yeah, I've never seen that, Doc. I've never once seen somebody transported in like that. And I'm kind of glad you asked me that, because one of the things that's immediately very concerning and strange is that this happened during an immediate transport. So how, it's presumably there's not already some relationship where they knew this person or had animus toward him, right? Because he's being moved to a new facility. So it's pretty unusual to see that kind of thing. But also, what I've seen on this case so far is that obviously he's handcuffed. I mean, he was being transported. So I don't even know that they can make any accusation he was in any way posing any threat. So I think part of the reason they got fired, is, I mean, what you're looking at on the video, you don't see anything where he looks like he's making any kind of movements where they can say, there was any kind of threat he was facing or that they were facing from him. So I don't have any idea why this is happening this way. It's very unusual and extremely problematic, which is why I'm thinking the powers that be jumped to cut these people loose so quickly.
Yeah, because it did seem very quick, right? I mean, the governor, look at this man with his courage and his tiny fist. Oh, Mikey, what do you think, brother?
I was reading the article from the Associated Press on this case, and I see that you have 13 correctional officers and one nurse that have been fired. And the first question I ask is, okay, so what caused, why is this altercation happening? He's already in handcuffs. So, because I haven't been able to find out, and I'm not even sure if they released this, what precipitated this and what's the cause of this, number one. Number two, the union for the correctional officers, even though they say they will defend them in court.
Mike, just
go ahead.
Yes, sir. No, just very quickly, don't forget that point there. Here go these punks beating on this brother. This is another angle. This is correction officer Matthew Gallagher's body cam. Looks like we're picking up, and thanks, team. Looks like, look at this punk choke. What the hell? This is happening. This looks like it's picking up right around the same time that we paused Trombley's body cam. So this is Gallagher, correction officer Matthew Gallagher, picking up from there. And then after this, we'll see a little bit from Michael Fisher. But go ahead, Mike. You're about to talk about the union, police union.
Yeah. The union said even though they are going to defend the correctional officers in court, they said a union spokesperson said what we witnessed reviewing the body cam footage is incomprehensible, to say the least, and certainly not reflective of the great work that the vast majority of our membership conducts. But sure. the union condemned this behavior, which is strange for unions, because usually unions, like we've seen numerous police shootings, and the unions say the police officers fear for their lives, the police officers did nothing wrong, things like this. But here the union is admitting that the officers did something wrong, and the actions of the correctional officers is incomprehensible. So
but it seems pretty banal to me. I mean, Mike, it sounds like what you said, Matt. They cutting them loose, or trying to, at least, to perhaps, and with all due respect to General James, who's doing an incredible job. She is part of law enforcement. And look at this punk. Looks like perhaps that, I don't know if that was the nurse, the man that came in and what appeared to be some kind of medical, and there he is again, who's also being cut loose. But one of the striking things about this absurd display of white nationalism is the banality. I mean, we talk about the banality of evil. Nobody seems to be, they're nonplussed. They're just kind of moving around in the facility. They're in the room. This punk over here is standing up, just kind of watching as if he's observing, somebody playing cards or just filing out a report. So is it surprising that they would close ranks and try to expunge these people from their ranks, perhaps to prevent a deeper investigation? Certainly, we don't have to worry about pattern and practice from the incoming white nationalist government of Donald Trump. So you won't have Kristen Clark involved in this. But I don't know. I mean, was that one of the points you were trying to make, Matt? In fact, that perhaps this is why they move so fast. I mean, is this an outlying incident? We have no way of knowing, but I don't think any of the three of us are surprised at what
Well, let me be exceedingly clear, Doc. This is not an outlying incident. This happens every day. I've had cases just like this, right? What is an outlying incident is having it recorded as clearly as you're seeing on a body cam. So this happens to inmates everywhere across the United States. But what is an aberration here is that they've moved so quickly to, terminate their employment, because to Michael's point, the unions closed the phalanx ranks just kind of as a matter of course. So for them to say, hey, we think this is a bridge too far, that's a little bit unusual. But what I still don't understand is anything that makes any sense behind any use of force against this brother, because as you probably know, you have a 14th Amendment right to refuse medical care. So let's just go with the idea that, like, let's say this brother was being, intaked, and they said, hey, you got to go to the infirmary. And he said, I don't want treatment. I mean, prisons have certain rules, but constitutionally, they can't even force him to take medical treatment. So I'm interested in seeing what the story is going to be about why they felt force in any way was justified, because he clearly wasn't posing any threat. And that's why I think somebody over there in risk management said, cut them loose as soon as possible, because this is going to be nothing but damage control, because this brother died, right? So there's going to be, people on the chopping block. And I think that's the reason behind it, but not a moral reason. It's not because they care. It's because they're concerned about the backlash that they knew was coming.
Yeah, and thank you for affirming what I think we all kind of know one another, but you have the firsthand experience there on the front line that this happens every day. And Mike, I'm gonna ask you in a minute to put this in some historical context, what we're seeing as well, if you don't mind. But I want to ask you just one follow-up question very quickly, Matt. And that's in relation to how much of the explanations, how much of an investigation into the circumstances and what have, how much do you think we will ultimately find out? And are they trying to head some of that off by letting these guys go quickly? I guess they'd probably be a civil lawsuit though, huh?
Oh, there will definitely be a civil lawsuit. And the good thing is this is in the Second Circuit, which is not the Fifth Circuit where I practice, right? It's among the circuits where plaintiffs actually have a chance. But I think this is more a political thing. I think the governor and the powers that be want to get in front of the bad press. But I think there will be a DOJ prosecution on this because this is so clear. I mean, you got a nurse sitting there kicking him in the stomach and in the groin area, and this man's restrained. I mean, just as per se excessive force. And I think you'll see some heads roll on that. But the problem is this is a pervasive issue. This kind of thing happens every day in prisons. And we need to change the system so that people who don't have it caught on body cam have a chance to vindicate their rights as well.
Thank you, Matt. Mike, you put this in some context with us, if you don't mind, brother. And in even thinking about it, as Matt said, you can see the Department of Justice jumping in very quickly. However, with this new white nationalist government that's coming in, what's your sense of how quickly they may or may not act at the federal level, and as you're talking about this in context?
Oh, well, the Trump administration is going to do absolutely nothing about this at the federal level. I mean, keep in mind, Donald Trump, for the 2024 campaign, Donald Trump said basically he was going to unleash the police, and he was going to give police officers 100% immunity against criminal prosecution for doing their jobs. All right. So and then if we go back and look at what happened during the first Trump administration, we know that his two attorney generals, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III and William Barr, they basically stopped doing investigations into patterns and practices of police departments. There were about 23 under the 8 years of Obama. There was only one under Donald Trump. And when Jeff Sessions, his first attorney general, became attorney general, Jeff Sessions tried to back out of the consent decree that the Baltimore Police Department and the Chicago Police Department entered into under the Obama administration. So the first Trump administration had basically a hands-off approach to policing. This one will do the same thing. And remember, Donald Trump in 2024, he said there needs to be one really bad, I think he said bad hour or bad day where the police just go crazy and go crazy on all the criminals. Okay. Now, I don't think he's going to talk about the criminals that surround Donald Trump. I don't think he's going to talk about those criminals. Okay. I don't think he's talking about the grifters. Right. But this is what you see. So Donald Trump encourages this. This is the same guy in when he was president before. He said, if you have somebody and you putting them in the car, in the police car, don't say, watch your head, things like that. So he doesn't care. And lastly, remember, this is the guy that brought back the federal death penalty. The last 6 months he was in office and had 13 people executed, including 5 African Americans, when there had only been 3 people executed at the federal level over the previous 60 years. So these are things that Donald Trump likes.
Well, I tell you what, actually, it was a week ago today, wasn't it, brothers, that the white nationalist governor of Missouri, Mike Parson, was able to help his friend Eric Divanakari get out of prison after his rampages. He had been in prison, so this is on the week anniversary. Yes. We get this video. So I think you may be right, Matt. We're gonna come back in a minute. We're gonna take a break for a moment, and I think folks will have a chance to kind of process some of what we saw. Thanks again, Carol. That last video, that last piece was the third of the videos we saw of the 3. That was Michael Fisher's body cam. So this is Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network, where we will be right back.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on. Before I even had a career, like I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, what do you want to do? And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through. And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books, just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He was going to prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what I'm going to do with it now?
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
That cracks me up every time I see it. Kim is right. Is there any other way to experience Roland Martin other than unfiltered? Roland's taking a much needed break. I'm sure wherever he is out there in the world getting a little bit of rest, there is no filter there as well. So we're back here at Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network on Friday night with Mike Imhotep and Matt Manning and myself, Greg Carr. And we're going to move now from one dimension of lynch law to evoke the great Idabel Wells Barnett out of Holly Springs, Mississippi. Lynch law in all its phases. We saw one of the phases in our first block, and here we are in the second block in North Carolina. A 20-year-old Black woman is fighting for her life after being doused with gas and set on fire. Ashanti Downey was rushed to the emergency room on December 16th with second and third degree burns down the right side of her body. Downey told police she was walking along Highway 27 toward a Dollar General in Harnett County when an unidentified man came up behind her, dumped gas all over her, and lit a cigarette that sparked the fire. No witnesses have been located, and authorities have not received any information from the public regarding this incident. Anyone with information is urged to contact Detective Ronald Beasley at 910-893-0151, the Hartnett County Sheriff's Office at area code 910-893-9111, the tip line at area code 910-893-0300, or submit a tip at p3tips.com. .com. There is a GoFundMe page that has been created to assist with Downey's medical expenses. There it is there. Looks like it's top 27,000. Certainly in this holiday season, in the season of reflection and thanks for family and community, people can dig deep here to help with her medical expenses. Her 21st birthday is on the last day of Kwanzaa, New Year's Day, the day of Imani, faith. My goodness. Gentlemen, any thoughts about this? Maybe we'll start with you, Mike. Again, lynch law in all its phases. Is this being emboldened by the current political climate? I mean, I know we don't know much about what happened, but any
Yeah.
initial thoughts, man?
Yeah, we don't know much. I read the article on this from WRAL, so I don't want to read too much into it because the sheriff's department is looking for leads and they don't know what the motive is as of yet. But this is whatever it is horrific. It's horrific. She looks like a beautiful young lady, and burns over 70% of her body. It sounds like a cowardly act. Hopefully they find out, what's behind this, what the motive was. What was this random? Was this somebody she knew? We don't know, but our hearts out to her. I hope she makes a recovery as best she can. We know her birthday's coming up, so and our hearts out to her family. But this is a horrific act that took place.
It is, brother. Matt, man, I know you've seen just about everything we can imagine in your practice and in your walk through life and working. Somebody just come up dousing gas on somebody, man. This kind of act of brutality. What do you think, looking at this and listening to this story?
I'm just mystified, to use the language that the sheriff's office had in a press release. And I'll say first, I was actually bothered by that. I feel like law enforcement should always keep it close to the vest when they're investigating something like this that's just so uncommon and so horrendous, right? They need to say we're actively investigating, but it made it sound like they were throwing their hands up. And I don't think that's the right way to approach it. I will say that this is not the kind of thing that happens, randomly most of the time, but it sounds like what she told investigators here is that it was a man who randomly came up. So hopefully there is footage at the Dollar General or nearby locations, because usually what you find in this circumstance is they're going to be able to find that he bought gasoline in a receptacle at a nearby gas station, right? Or maybe somewhere close in the vicinity. And hopefully through the investigation, they can really figure out, kind of piece together where he was before and what happened, because presumably if she's walking along, unless she was picked up by somebody, there should be camera footage of vehicles passing nearby. So hopefully they do a thorough investigation and find it. But more importantly, I'm hoping that the DA's office makes this one of those cases where they don't offer any deals. They swing for the fences and put this person in prison for as long as North Carolina law allows, because this is just horrendous. And having had cases where people are burned by gasoline, this is among, one of the most painful you can incur injury. So I feel for her and her family. But hopefully in the state of North Carolina, they also have victims compensation. Like in Texas, we have it where you can receive money from the state for certain offenses. So hopefully her family will be able to receive some of that in the interim to help with her medical expenses.
Yeah, we hope so. We absolutely hope so, Mike. I mean, in fact, there was news earlier today out of New York. I mean, we all saw the story out of Brooklyn. Brooklyn's DA, Eric Gonzalez, made a brief statement today after Sebastian Zapata Khalil, who was accused of setting fire to the lady on the subway last Sunday in New York, who actually died of her injuries. He was indicted on charges of murder in the first and second degree. So she was set fire on the subway last Monday. So Ashanti Downey has been harmed. Obviously, it's a horrendous act. She still has her life. We want to surround her in prayer and support her in any way we can. And as the old song, I think, was Sister Winona Carter, gospel singer, strange things happening every day. And this is it's a terrible thing, particularly in the holiday season. So, brothers, we'll be right back, everybody. Roland Martin Unfiltered will be right back after the break. And you are watching the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like, I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books and just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what I'm going to do with it now?
Now that Roland Martin is willing to give me the blueprint, hey, Cyrus, I need to go to Tyler Perry and get another blueprint because I need some green money. The only way I can do what I'm doing, I need to make some money. So you'll see me working with Roland. Matter of fact, it's the Roland Martin and Cheryl Underwood show. Well, should it be the Cheryl Underwood show and the Roland Martin show? Well, whatever show it's going to be good.
All right. Yeah, shout out to the Sorors of Zeta Phi Beta and their former leader, Cheryl Underwood. It's always good to see a big smile and get good energy here at the end of the new year as we move into the next cycle. And here we are in the joyous Kwanzaa season. Let's turn our eyes and our attention to the state of Mississippi. Mississippi Valley State University. Shout out to the Delta Devils, of course, home of Jerry Rice and so many others coming out of Mississippi Valley. Mississippi Valley State University's marching band got invited to perform, let's hold on to our seats, at the upcoming presidential inauguration. The band, the Mean Green Marching Machine, will perform apparently at the 60th presidential inauguration parade in Washington, D.C. on January 20th. And of course, the Delta Devil Band has played on several stages, big stages over the years, including NBA games, the Rose Bowl parade, the New Orleans Mardi Gras parades. They don't play down there in Louisiana, and the National Show Band Battle of the Bands. It's become a big thing, particularly in recent years. The band is apparently soliciting, in fact, I did see that, the band is soliciting donations to make this opportunity possible for students. But is this a good thing? Let's talk about this, brothers. Matt, good thing, bad thing? Any thoughts about the Mean Green Marching Machine being invited to come up to DC and march in the Trump inauguration parade?
It's a bittersweet thing because, of course, what college kid doesn't want the opportunity to perform for the president? The problem is it's going to be this president. That's the bad part about it. But it sounds like it's a great opportunity for them, for the school, and I hope, despite the person in the White House, they're able to really revel in the honor of being, asked to perform in an inaugural parade. But again, I wouldn't want to do it for this guy. So that's the bittersweet part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mike, what you think, brother?
It'd be like performing at a Klan rally. That's not, honor. Okay. Yeah. If it was just to be invited to perform for a president in the inauguration, but this is an anti-Black president who's gone on record referring to nations like Haiti as S-hole countries, who spread lies about Haitian migrants eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio, who says he's going to unleash the police, who brought back the federal death penalty the last 6 months he was in office and executed 13 people, including 5 black people. I mean, it'd be like performing at a Klan rally. I mean, I guess you could tell your children about it, but why would you do it? I mean, no. 2025. I mean, all opportunities are not good opportunities. I'm sorry.
All money, not good money, huh, Mike?
No.
I tell you what, though, it's interesting. As y'all were talking, I was thinking about it. And you're right. I mean, they're raising money. It is an opportunity, as you say, Matt, to do something. But as you say, Mike, of course, the question is, why were they invited? Why Mississippi? Are you trying to make a point? We all remember Ronald Reagan launching his damn presidential campaign from Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Philadelphia, Mississippi.
These underlying tones. But what do y'all think about this? And then just think about it as we were talking. They're coming up for the parade. So obviously that involves travel and logistics and lodging. What if, I remember when the Warriors, Golden State Warriors came up and they won the championship. And the good brother David West, who was on the team at the time, they had to go to the White House, of course, and that was, fraught with all kind of tensions at the time. But David West came up and stayed a little over and came by Howard because he's a big supporter of Yosef Ben Yakin, and he's a big, African-centered guy. He came on Howard's campus and came to my class and sat, and I said, well, is that David West? What you doing here, man? Hey, man, we had to come up here, but I wanted to come over here and spend some time. And so he ended up talking with the class. It's a beautiful thing, but I'm saying that as a prelude to this. I want to ask y'all about this. What if the Symphony of Soul, which is the marching band at the great Bowie State University, the magnificent marching machine of the great Morgan State University, the national treasure as they are called, the Showtime marching band at Howard, and the Thundering Hawks at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I'm just thinking about the closest bands in the area. What if they got together and maybe welcomed the Mean Green Marching Machine either the day before, or maybe they stay overnight and maybe do something together to kind of wash that taste out of their mouth? I don't know if that would be, I don't know. I mean, could this be nuanced, or could it be surrounded in a way to kind of say, okay, this is an opportunity, but maybe they do it at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Well, I don't know, But anyway, what y'all think?
Well, the day of the inauguration is the same day as the celebration of Dr. King Day. And there's going to be a big celebration in Washington, D.C. as well. So maybe the I don't know, but the organizers of the Dr. King Day celebrations need to reach out to them and have them come perform, because it's like, look, what are you celebrating? Okay, yeah, you go perform, but why? What are you celebrating? Have you read Project 2025? Have you read Trump's policies? They're anti-DEI, anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion. They want to close the Department of Education. What in the hell? Why? Go talk to Chrisette Michele, okay? Chrisette Michele damn near lost her career when she performed at the inauguration in 2017. Her managers told her, don't do it. She thought it would bring about a healing to the country for her to perform. I don't know why. Roland Martin interviewed her. She made no damn sense in the interview. Love Chrisette Michele, okay? Love Chrisette Michele. Go talk to her. I mean, why? Come on.
Matt, what do you think about that, brother? Is it possible, Mike has kind of laid this out a little, since it is the King holiday celebration, might it be possible for Valley to fold in some other things, and maybe while they're marching through right quick for a parade, make this about something else? Or are they, as Mike says, running the risk of perhaps being known for something they don't want to be known for?
Well, I'm glad you asked it that way, Doc. Mike is right, and I'm wrong about this. This is not an opportunity you take the more I think about it. I think he's correct. I think there are a lot of things they can do to try to salvage it, but there have been so many statements by this Trump White House and by Mr. Trump in seeking the White House again that I think he's right. I don't know that they would be canceled by like Chrisette Michele. It's obviously apples to oranges with her being an individual artist and this being the band. But, there is precedent for people saying, I am not coming to the White House to, celebrate with you because I don't stand with your ideology. And I think you're right. I think my first take on it was probably a little short-sighted. I think it's, quote, an opportunity. But when somebody tells you that they hate you, why would you go do something for them, right? I mean, and that's what Trump has done here. So I think there are a lot of ways they could make it good. They could come by Howard. It would be great for them to come by and have like a battle of the bands at Howard at the football stadium. I mean, that would be dope. But
that's a great idea, man.
Right. Hey, Greg.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
The Mississippi State Valley Band. Go talk to Benny Thompson. Go talk to Representative Benny Thompson from Mississippi, who headed up the January 6th committee. Okay.
Well,
and filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and others using the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Filed a civil lawsuit, right? Because of statements, derogatory statements they made against Benny Thompson and others. Don't forget Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman. Okay, how he put their lives in jeopardy with the lies they told. No, y'all need to rethink this.
Well, and on top of that, you know you're being used as a pawn because what everybody knows is what you said, right? So I think that's really what Michael put into focus for me, and I was a little short-sighted in my first answer because you've already told us you hate us. So the whole reason for you to call us is to say, I don't really hate them Negroes to say it the way I said I did the previous 200 times. So, you know, you're playing into that. I do recognize that there will be some people who will be, you know, like, man, this is the president of the United States. We have to take this opportunity. And I get that as a thought kind of in a vacuum. But when somebody tells you they hate you, take them at their word and don't go do something for them. So I think
it's true.
The more I think about
it's true. It's true. And Congressman Thompson, of course, you know, he should be in those blanket pardons that Joe Biden should be giving out because otherwise they're going to be trying to put Benny Thompson in jail. Right.
And he said he'll accept one. He said he'll accept one. Yeah.
Oh, no, of course. I mean, Thompson is the marquee guy. It is Thompson versus. I mean, so I mean, yeah, I think that's real. And that might even be part of the troll. I mean, y'all are bringing up some hella points on a Friday night, man. I think I love that idea, Matt. I mean, Green Stadium is right down the street, right up Georgia Avenue. If they did a battle of the bands with those four bands, Bowie and Morgan and Maryland Eastern Shore and Valley, I think it would send a hell of a message. And you know, it's interesting because this might be the opening salvo of the conflict, of the real battle with the Trump administration. And it wouldn't be ironic that a little band out of the Mississippi Delta Valley, which has been known up to now for most people for Jerry Rice, might be known for either leading the resistance or bowing down. And God knows, I hope it's the former. So I share that feeling, Matt and Mike. So we'll be back in a moment here on the second day of Kwanzaa. Kujichagulia, self-determination. All right, Valley, Kujichagulia, self-determination. We'll be back in a moment here on the Black Star Network with Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
Well, y'all, when you're on that stage or when you're and you're seeing 2 and 3 or 4 generations in the audience, that's got to speak to you about the power of what y'all have become.
Oh, most definitely. I think we were doing our show before our break, and remember, I was watching this kid. I could not take my eyes off him because he was about 9 or so. He was sitting in the front row with his
over on the right hand side. Yes.
I was amazed that this kid knew everything, and I was like tripping to see how many songs this kid actually knew.
And he knew them all.
And he knew them all. We had to go over there and bring him on stage and take a picture with him, you know, at the end of the show and stuff, because it was just that amazing. It's like, this is crazy.
You know, the music travels everywhere, you know, like what Philip was saying, seeing this young kid, then you hear our songs on commercials, cold commercials. Then you have the younger ones that hear our music in animation.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
All right, friends, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. Watching Brother Isaac Hayes there, thinking about Kujichagulia self-determination later on in the week, and Kwanzaa, the principle of Ujamaa cooperative economics. It just feels like it's getting blacker at the end of 2024, preparing for 2025. Good advice, brothers, on Mississippi Valley State University. Looks like the folks who are watching kind of agree. Perhaps they should either miss the bus or just simply say we're not going to come. So let's turn our attention to the cold civil war that seems to be heating up in MAGA land. Have your popcorn and tea ready, Representative Crockett? A MAGA world argument erupted on social media regarding race, immigration, and billionaires versus the working class. Shocked. The conflict started Sunday when Trump named venture capitalist Sriram Krishnan as his advisor on AI policy, artificial intelligence, not to be confused with intelligence. Krishna's appointment triggered an anti-Indian backlash, rather. Shocked again. Anti-Indian backlash? Where's Junior Varsity Vance's wife at this point? Vivek Ramaswamy escalated the conflict with a post on X, blaming an American culture that, quote, venerated mediocrity over excellence, end quote, for the growth in foreign tech workers. Apartheid baby Elon Musk tried to defend this argument by framing it as using immigration to supplement rather than replace American workers. Mike, brother, what the hell is going on? They can't look. And somebody, my man Lamont King on Sirius XM this morning. We were on this morning on a morning show, and Mike said, "Man, they talking smack in the layup line. They ain't even got to the game yet. They talking smack, you know." But Mike, what do you make of this, man? Is this a cold civil war heating up in MAGA land? I mean, or what?
I think it is, and I saw it coming because wait a second, you're talking about immigrants. Elon Musk is from South Africa. Elon Musk is an immigrant. Elon Musk bought Donald Trump for $277 million. Elon Musk donated $277 million and bought ads and all this stuff, invested $277 million in Donald Trump. He couldn't run for president. He's now a shadow president. You got some Democrats referring to him as President Musk. And then you have Vivek Ramaswamy, who was one of the most spineless people I've ever seen, kissing up to Donald Trump. But what this is all dealing with the H-1B visa program and how it allows immigrants who have highly technical skills to immigrate to the U.S. Well, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they're in the tech industry. They know they need those type of immigrants. And they know that in the U.S., they don't have a heavy emphasis on math and science. They're not dominating in the tech industries like that. And they know they need those immigrants. This is at odds with the non-college educated, white working class people that somehow thought Donald Trump was going to be their white savior, okay, and save the economy and bring down inflation, things like that. And this is coming to a head. Now, there's a song from 2000 by DJ Godfather that comes to mind, "Let Them Hoes Fight." I'm against calling women hoes, but let these hoes fight. No, step back, because this shit about to blow up.
My goodness. And of course, MAGA is finding out these hoes ain't loyal. But
Exactly.
Matt, what do you anyway? And of course, we're not talking about women, we're talking about paid hired guns in this case. And
Yes.
these two hired guns ain't loyal to you hillbillies in the hillbilly horde. Matt, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Well, first off, I like how you came off the alley oop, Doc. I like the loyal.
Oh no, brother.
In any event, it's funny, man, because you can't be a patrician and a populist at the same time. And I was always how this was going to work. I mean, you got billionaires. You have people who are the uppermost echelon, right? Convincing poor white people in rural Alabama and Mississippi to vote against their own interests.
Right.
This is inherent. Like, this was always going to happen. And I don't understand how anybody ever thought it would be sustainable to have people like Musk and Ramaswamy, who are upper crust, essentially trying to foment, rebellion among the lower strata, if you will, and how it was not seen that it was going to come to a head that this exact thing happened. The conservative activists who were pushing back on that were saying, no, you need to be closing the borders and you need to be, pushing back against immigration, despite the fact that the overwhelming people who come over on these visas have extraordinary educations. So this socioeconomic stratification has always existed, and it's never made any sense to me. And this is a perfect example of how it's not sustainable. So I don't know what he's going to do, but like I said last week on the show, I mean, Trump tries to give the illusion of being strong and powerful, and he's very clearly giving his government away to the highest bidder, Elon Musk. And it's just inherent that this is not going to be sustainable. They're going to eat themselves alive from the inside.
Absolutely. He's already been rented out, brother. And like you said last week, I mean, it's not sustainable. Thanks for the lesson in political economy. Right. You can't be part of those two classes at the same time. We've seen that. Capitalism certainly has shown us that. But as of January 20th, to perhaps close out with another line from hip hop, there will be some hoes in this house. So you are watching Roland Martin on Black. You're watching Roland Martin here on the Black Star Network. I didn't know y'all had this kind of turn up injury on Friday nights, man. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We're doing our best, Roland, to be unfiltered. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like, I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books and just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what am I going to do with it now?
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
All right, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. And Matt, your idea about a battle of the bands is kick gaining traction, man. A couple of texts, people are fired up about that possibility. Hey, and by the way, the approaching storm marching band of the Delaware State University did not want to leave y'all out. That would be a finger in the eye, considering that that's Joe Biden's favorite HBCU for obvious reasons. And shout out to Deshaun Jackson, apparently the new football coach at Delaware State. These Negroes trying to have a rebellion over these HBCUs, man, bringing these cats in. Let's turn our attention here in the winter months here in the United States to the most vulnerable, many of the most vulnerable in our population here in this country. The United States saw an 18.1% increase in homelessness this year. The United States Department of Housing and Urban Development blames the rise on a lack of affordable housing, devastating natural disasters, and a surge of migrants. 23 out of every 10,000 people in the United States are homeless, with Black people overrepresented among the population. No surprise there. Family homelessness more than doubled in 13 communities impacted by migrants, including Denver, Chicago, and New York City. The increase in the homeless population, or the unhoused population, over the past 2 years contrasts with the success the United States has been having for more than a decade. Matt, you down there in a little bit more seasonable climate, but still, we see people on the streets everywhere in this country. Any thoughts on this crisis and how we might be able to address it?
Yeah, and I'll keep it short. I mean, first, an 18% increase is huge. I mean, that's a big number. And the way my understanding is that they do this point in time is they count the number of unhoused people on a specific day at a specific time. So to have an 18% increase in 1 year is really astronomical to me, right? I mean, if you think about that increase, it's pretty substantial. But I think, Doc, one of the things we really have to grapple with as a society is how long we let private property rights go on before we start looking at the overall whole of a community. And I say that to say, I live in Corpus Christi. There are a bunch of commercial buildings that are vacant and have been vacant the entire time I've lived here. It doesn't make sense to me that our local government doesn't have some incentive program to help, reform those, because especially in a place like Corpus, it's so temperate throughout the year that we have a pretty large unhoused population. And I think we just have to figure out a way to be focused on the humanity of this rather than the private capitalist interest on this, particularly when we have a Supreme Court that we know has recently said it is not an Eighth Amendment violation to have a camping ban for a city to say you can't camp out in public. So obviously in the courts, we're not protecting unhoused people, and we have to find a better way to do it because this is abhorrent. Housing is a thing that should not be commodified to the point that we don't find a way that everyone has secure housing. It's like healthcare. This is things that we need as people, and we can't allow our governments to not do more to, curb this tide.
Absolutely, brother. Mike, what you think?
Yeah, this is really a tragedy, and this goes to a number of different things that came up during this previous election, largely brought up by the Harris campaign, because Donald Trump really had no policies to address homelessness or really focus in on the high cost of rent or the lack of housing stock, things of this nature. But we know back in, I think it was June, or July, I'm looking at this piece from USA Today, Biden to call for 5% cap on annual rent increases, a critical issue for voters. We know also that I think it was the Justice Department was cracking down on what they've stated was like collusion when it came to setting rental prices and the algorithms with the software programs that were being used by various corporations that own the rental properties. So you see this type of initiative coming from the Biden-Harris administration. You see Vice President Kamala Harris talking about the lack of housing stock and proposing policies to build 3 million new homes in the first 4 years to bring down the cost of housing. Then you look at a grifter like Donald Trump, who is not doesn't have policies to address the homeless crisis here in this country. And, and you're going to see more of this. It's going to get worse under the Trump administration. If he imposes his tariffs, okay, it's going to get worse. You're going to see probably the economy go into a recession, and you're going to see the unemployment rate increase, and it's going to get worse. This is how elections have consequences. So This is bad, but Trump hasn't even taken office yet. Wait till he gets in office.
Yeah, absolutely. And as our brother Adam Sarir, who is a New Yorker, wrote in his book, sometimes for them, the cruelty is the point. So then they're trying to solve
Yes.
a problem. They're looking for somebody to blame. So we're going to take a quick break and come back here at Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We will be back in a moment. Second day of Kwanzaa, Kuji Chagalia, self-determination. Back in a moment.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books and just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what I'm going to do with it now?
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
But y'all, when you're on that stage or when you're and you're seeing 2 and 3, 4 generations in the audience, that's got to speak to you about the power of what y'all have become.
Oh, most definitely. I think we were doing our show before our break, and remember, I was watching this kid. I could not take my eyes off him because he was about 9 or so. He was sitting in the front row with his
over on the right hand
parents.
side. Yes.
I was amazed that this kid knew everything, and I was like tripping to see how many songs this kid actually knew.
And he knew them all.
And he knew them all. We had to go over there and bring him on stage and take a picture with him, at the end of the show and stuff, because it was just that amazing. It's like, this is crazy.
The music travels everywhere, like what Philip was saying, seeing this young kid. Then you hear our songs on commercials, cold commercials. Then you have the younger ones that hear our music in animation.
Has been missing from her Altadena, California home since August 24th, 2024. The 15-year-old is 5 feet tall, weighs 109 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Leilani Collins should call the Los Angeles, California Sheriff's Department at area code 626-798-1131. More breaking news. Another ancestor, a New Orleans-born, Chicago-raised Greg Gumbel, the renowned CBS sports anchor and commentator, has made transition at the age of 78. His family confirmed the news in the following statement, quote, "It is with profound sadness that we share the passing of our beloved husband and father, Greg Gumbel. He passed away peacefully, surrounded by much love after a courageous battle with cancer. Greg approached his illness like one would expect he would, with stoicism, grace, and positivity. He leaves behind a legacy of love, inspiration, and dedication to over 50 extraordinary years in the sports broadcast industry, and his iconic voice will never be forgotten. Greg's memory will forever be treasured by his friends, his family, his dearest friends, his colleagues, and all who loved him," end quote. Marcy and Michelle Gumbel. Gumbel served as a play-by-play announcer and studio host for CBS Sports and spent years on air for NBC Sports. He won legions of fans with his work, hosting coverage ranging from the NFL Today to several Super Bowls and Olympic Games. Greg Gumbel, an ancestor at 78. A judge has ruled that the Georgia State Senate can subpoena District Attorney, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to investigate whether she engaged in misconduct during her prosecution of President-elect Donald Trump. However, Willis has been given the chance to contest whether lawmakers' demands are overly broad. The order filed Monday by Fulton County Superior Court Judge Shakura Ingram says Willis has until January 13th to submit arguments over whether the subpoenas seek legally shielded or confidential information. Ingram wrote that she would issue a final order later, saying what Willis had to respond to. A state appeals court earlier this month removed Willis from the Georgia election interference case after Donald Trump and others, citing a, quote, appearance of impropriety. Yeah, you would be experts on impropriety appearances, wouldn't you? Maybe get Matt Gaetz to weigh in as well. That might not typically warrant such a removal. The Georgia Court of Appeals, 3 Republican judges, said in a 2-1 ruling that because of the romantic relationship Willis had with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, quote, "This is the rare case in which disqualification is mandated and no other remedy will suffice to restore public confidence in the integrity of these proceedings." They did that with a straight face and tongues, hopefully firmly in cheek. But of course, you could hear the laughter as they did that. Willis's office immediately filed a notice of intent to ask the Georgia Supreme Court to review the decision. Finally, in this block, and we'll just read this and then ask you brothers to respond to any of the stories that we've just laid out. Federal authorities have charged a Missouri man for making racist threats of physical harm against employees of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in late 2023. 62-year-old Daryl Jaspering of Warrenton was indicted with 1 count of transmitting threatening communications and 1 count of interference with federally protected activities. For transmitting threatening communications, Jaspering faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison and a fine up to $250,000. Wait, then we got one more in the block. I'm going to read this one so then we can think about this, man. It's a lot going on. And obviously, these people seem to be more and more out of control with this double standard. Let's go to Virginia with a federal jury there. A federal jury in Virginia convicted a prison lieutenant and nurse for ignoring an inmate's medical crisis that led to his death. Former Lieutenant Sharonda Covington and registered nurse Tanya Farley, both of Chesterfield, were on duty at the Federal Correctional Institution in Petersburg, Virginia, in January 2021, when a 47-year-old inmate began showing clear signs of a neurological emergency. Instead of getting help, Covington and Farley ignored the inmate's worsening conditions, leaving him to suffer blunt force trauma from repeated collisions with walls and other objects. Covington was found guilty of violating civil rights and faces up to 15 years in prison. Both she and Farley were also convicted of lying to federal investigators, a charge carrying a maximum 5-year sentence. A third employee, Lieutenant Michael Anderson, previously pled guilty to charges related to the case and is already serving a 3-year prison sentence. Covington and Farley will be sentenced in May 2025. 5. Brothers, any thoughts about any of these stories, beginning with any reflections on the life and career of Greg Gumbel, which I guess young people might not know who Greg Gumbel is. I mean, everything has exploded. There's no more just 3 networks. Sports aren't the events that they used to be in terms of people kind of being guided by commentators. But any thoughts on any of the stories?
Yeah, I'll go first, if that's okay. So I'm on Greg Gumbel and Fani Willis. Yeah, I remember Greg Gumbel on CBS Sports as well as NBC Sports. He was a trailblazer. He was in broadcasting for 50 years. He was the older brother to Brian Gumbel. So a lot of us remember Brian Gumbel on the Today Show. But you also had Greg Gumbel, who dominated in sports broadcasting. And he did it at a time when there were not a lot of African Americans in sports broadcasting, especially those who were not former like professional athletes, right? You see a Shaquille O'Neal, or you see some of the ones on ESPN or something like that. But Greg Gumbel was different. So he's an ancestor now. So our condolences to his family. With Fani Willis, she should definitely appeal this. I read the article from the Associated Press, and they're saying that there was this state's appeals court earlier this month, removed her, saying that there's an appearance of impropriety, but they didn't specifically state what the impropriety is. Yes, she had a relationship with Nathan Wade, but the relationship developed after he was brought on to the case, number one. Number two, I went back into my archives and looked at the article from 11alive.com out of Atlanta, Georgia, the news station out of Atlanta, Georgia. And they have an article, "No, it is not against Georgia law for a prosecutor to have a personal relationship with appointee." When you read this, it does not violate Georgia state law for them to be in a relationship. Okay. And this makes it pretty clear. Now, if there's some other thing, if there's something else, if they specifically targeted somebody to enrich themselves or something like that, but that's not the case here. And the defense, Michael Roman's defense, has not proven that's the case. They try to throw that up, but that got shut down when Fani Willis testified that she paid Nathan Wade back for the portion of the trips that he took her on, things like this. She paid him back for that. So this is them just trying to give Donald Trump an out and Donald Trump's cronies an out here. But this is not an appearance of impropriety, and they can't point to what the impropriety is. And last point, Michael Roman's defense team, there's a husband and wife team on the defense team raising the arguments against Fani Willis, and they're married. So come on.
It's 2 sets of rules. I mean, you appear in courtrooms every day, Matt. I mean, you've seen some things, I'm sure, and anybody who's ever been around the courts in any way, if you've been there in any sustained moment, all the stuff that happens before the judge puts on the robe and comes out on the bench would shock most people who don't know anything about. So how are you reading this, brother?
Well, first I want to harken back to the last segment and say they some hoes. The Georgia Senate, they some hoes for this. And the reason is because, I hear the laughter in the back. I like that. Because we know the issue is dead. The issue is already dead. You've already had open testimony about this issue. And I'm glad that they at least gave her the carve out to say that the office can say what's privileged or what's not privileged. But this is purely political. This is only to drag her name through the mud and continue attacking her because the prosecution is over. And frankly, at this point, when you have a prosecutor or any lawyer that's involved in a case, they have work product. So the idea that they're going to go through and check her work on something where they've already made this decision is to me purely political, and it's stupid. That's why you're seeing all these self-serving statements about, oh, she needs to come and respond to the subpoenas. But they didn't say that to Trump's people when they were trying to give them subpoenas for January 6th and they were openly disregarding them, right? It seems like that should go both ways, but it obviously doesn't because it's purely political. Now, I also always appreciate the opportunity to say that Michael is longer in the tooth than I am, but I do know Greg Gumbel. I have to say that, every time it's necessary. But I do know Greg Gumbel. I know March Madness. And, it's really interesting that we watch somebody on TV like him for so long and we welcome them into our homes and we develop a relationship with them, right? We just get used to them giving us information, giving us insights, and we don't always think about the fact that they are human just like us, and one day we won't have them to continue enriching us. But I wish the best for him and his family, and rest in power to the brother. And thank you for keeping us entertained and giving us all the insights you did for the 50-year career that you had. But they are some hoes as it relates to Fani Willis. This is not necessary. We know that. This is purely to drag her name through the mud. So that's my thought.
No question. No question. It seems like the idea of contract labor for favors is becoming a theme on Friday night here, at least this Friday night. But yeah, they definitely are, man. Yeah, we're at an interesting moment. All these ancestors, as you say, that awful day will surely come for all of us. That being said, we're going into uncharted territory. We have been here before, as we know, in terms of being African people in this country. It's going to look a little different this time, though, and it does have a little bit of a feel. You go from the civility of a Greg Gumbel, the kind of way they presented themselves to Gumbel brothers and moving through the space, pushing back barriers, and then you got cats out here threatening the NAACP. You got people out here setting people on fire. There seems to be no guardrail. People are talking about guardrails. And I know as we get into the new year, we'll talk more about all of this, because there are going to be some unexpected twists and turns, to be consistent with the emerging theme tonight. I'm sure Trump and them think that when they get to the White House, it's going to be pimps up, hoes down. But I think they don't understand that they're no pimps. They ain't no pimps. They're shade tree politicians, just a rest haven. Anyway, I'm not going to go on with the Mac quote. So let's take a pause here for a moment. Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll be right back here on the Black Star Network, and when we come back, we're going to turn our attention to those of you who may be just emerging from your Christmas meal and getting ready for New Year's revelry, and you might need some slow your roll or some rethinking or some moment of peace to begin to reset. Some of you overdid it day before yesterday. We're going to talk with a professional that's going to help us get through these holiday days ahead. Roland Martin Unfiltered, back here at the Black Star Network in a moment.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like, I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books, just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what am I going to do with it now?
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free-to-download, free-to-use, next-generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. You see there, download the Black Star Network app. You see it in the scroll there beneath us as we continue. We are in the holiday season, Kwanzaa and Christmas and Hanukkah and all of the various rituals of celebration. And with the holiday season, with this great celebration come a lot of things, including great germs, among other things. According to a KRC research survey, 51% of Gen Zs and 36% of millennials experience FOMO, fear of missing out. Uh, Matt, somebody told me the other day they didn't know what long in the tooth meant. This was one of my students, and I'm like, wow. Well, you're looking at it when you're looking on the screen right now, a little long in the tooth. But I don't have fear of missing out. I have fear of missing sleep. But this is why adopting a routine to stay healthy during the holiday season is essential. So this time last year, we brought in Dr. Reva Kelsey, who's the program director of the Morehouse School of Medicine residency program and associate dean of graduate medical education, to discuss how holiday season wellness unfolds and some things we can do. And so we thought we would bring her back here during the Kwanzaa season, self-determination, Kujichagulia, the night of Kujichagulia, to help us and help ourselves to discuss and to be well during this holiday season. Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered, Dr. Kelsey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. So we know everybody is reveling and having excess, and then there are other people who are isolated, maybe, and maybe have seasonal affective disorder. One of the things you talked about last week, this is a wide open field, and we thought we'd take the back end of the show today to maybe consult with you and get your thoughts on holiday season wellness and the range of things that are involved and some things we should be looking out for and maybe preparing for and trying to do to make ourselves and keep ourselves well during this season. So the floor is yours, Doc.
Well, thank you. And this is such an important topic. So thank you for thinking about this on this Friday as we approach the end of the year. Certainly in the holiday season, it is a time for people to come together with friends and with family and loved ones, people we may not have seen in quite some time. And with that comes many things. I mean, of course, with that comes meals and other ways that we engage. It comes visiting both people in their homes and out in other settings. And so it's important for us to maintain some healthy habits when we do that. And I'll start with saying that first, sometimes we think about this time of the year as a season of joy, J-O-Y. And so if we think about J-O-Y, remember that there is just one you. And so in that, it's important to think about how do we take care of that you. And so that's going to be both, not both, but it's going to include the way that we eat. So ensuring that during this time when we are eating with friends and with family and these delicious meals, savory meals, sweet meals that are being prepared, that we are engaging in the social element of eating, but doing that in moderation. So certainly monitoring our portion sizes, and for those who have particular chronic diseases, things like high blood pressure or heart disease, we want to be very careful about the amount of salt that we're taking in. For those who have diabetes, to be careful about the amount of carbohydrates or sweets that we're consuming. Every year we see around the holidays, whether it's this series of holidays or others, we see in the emergency departments increased numbers of people who are coming in with flares or what we call exacerbations of these chronic diseases from overeating foods that perhaps we should not engage in. We also want to make sure that as we are eating, that we're remembering to exercise, remembering that physical activity actually helps our bodies to respond to the insulin that we produce to help to break down the sugars that we consume. And so exercise is very important. It's important not only for that reason, but also because we know that when we exercise, we release those good chemicals, those happy chemicals that we call endorphins. And so it helps with mood. And as you mentioned, last year we talked about seasonal affective disorder. And so one of the ways that we work on minimizing the sense of feeling down during the holidays that some people do experience is through exercise. We know that spending time with people who we have healthy relationships with. So healthy relationships are an important part of reducing stress. We know that it is important to minimize the intake of alcohol. We know that it's important to avoid tobacco, or for those who smoke, to begin to cut back on smoking, and certainly engaging in other harmful substances. So these are all some of the things that we can do from a health standpoint. Certainly when we think about ways that we fortify our bodies, I talked about decreasing stress, because we know that when we're under stress, that some chemicals, cortisol, hormones, and those things that cause us to feel more stress and cause, as I talked about before, things like diabetes to worsen or to flare, cause our sugar levels to be elevated. It also attacks our immune system. When we're under stress, our immune systems are not functioning as well as they otherwise should. Getting adequate sleep is important. So, we talked about nutrition, we talked about exercise, we're talking about being around people who are with whom we have healthy relationships, minimizing those substances that are going to be harmful substances. And rest is really important also. We know that there are many demands on us generally, but also during the holidays, and knowing that while connecting with people is important for mood, but we also know that when we overdo it, that we don't give our bodies an opportunity to rest. And so rest, just sitting still is important, and then also rest as we sleep, getting about at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep, or for some it's up to 9 hours, 7 to 9 hours. For those, depending on one's body, they require different amounts of sleep. So those are some, kind of some general tips. We think about taking advantage of those persons who are around who can feed into our spirits. So it's important for us to sit with elders. So elders who can share wisdom, elders who can share family stories, elders who can share, some of the lessons that they've learned in life. And as we grow from those, that also becomes opportunities for us to take advantage of this time, that things tend to be a little slow from the standpoint of work, but where they ramp up in terms of our social activities. So make sure that as we are doing and engaging in these social activities, that we are engaging with people who can, again, feed into us, particularly spending some time with our elders. And so those are some very brief things that I would want to mention. I will say that a particular way to engage that many of us take part in during this time of year, and you talked about it earlier, is in Kwanzaa. And I, certainly not directly related to my work at work as a physician, but in the sense that I understand that there is a oneness between our mind, body, and spirit. And so when we engage with others in Kwanzaa and we rededicate ourselves to unity, the importance of unity and of self-determination, which is tonight in Kujichagulia, self-determination, as we recognize that we have a responsibility to each other. And so in the sense that we feel better when we are helping others, then that is where we think about Ujima, or collective work and responsibility. We know that particularly during this season, many people have a habit of overspending. And so, that increases stress. So it's important to think about spending wisely, spending responsibly, And as it relates to Kwanzaa, Ujamaa, cooperative economics, how do we spend in a way that we are working and helping each other, supporting each other's businesses and being responsible in that way? And then as we think about purpose, so purpose is really important, or Nia, which is the next principle of Kwanzaa, purpose is really important, even as it relates to health, because as we understand that we each have a role, we each have a purpose in this life, and each have a purpose as it relates to each other and building our communities. And as we work towards that purpose, as we reach some actualization, self-actualization in that regard, that too actually does feed into positive health, you know, the way that we think about ourselves, and that which is connected again to the way that we feel, certainly. And so Nia does play a role there. And then of course, creativity. So ways in which we are tapping into our creative selves. And as we think about Kuumba as it's expressed in the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, talking about leaving the places where we are more beautiful and beneficial than when we inherited them. So creativity, Kuumba, is so important. And of course, faith, or Imani, you know, believing in ourselves, in our family, in our people. That is just so important. The role that faith plays. And so thank you for that opportunity as you talked in the lead into this, Dr. Carr, as we talked about the principles of Kwanzaa, to speak about the principles of Kwanzaa, but to the fact that you evoked Kwanzaa, even as we think about the time that we spend in this season of holidays, and that health they do, and there's a role that they play in our health, and our health plays a role in our ability to really engage and fully exhibit those 7 principles of Kwanzaa and the other holidays that persons do celebrate during this time.
Absolutely.
Those would be some of the tips that I would kind of start this discussion with.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Kelsey. And we're going to bring in Matt, and we're going to bring in Mike in a moment. But I take a few seconds here to ask you broadly, in that spirit of umoja and unity that you kind of laid out for us. That was an excellent way of weaving in the Nguzo Saba into taking care of ourselves in this season of holiday wellness. You know, I mean, putting others before us, as you said, just one you. Although I suspect Just Say No is probably on about a 1.5 week hiatus, because when you mentioned alcohol and liquor, I'm not sure that there's going to be necessarily a prioritization of being moderate there. But thinking about concern for others, you know, I haven't seen a lot of masks in public these days. I see some elders and some folk. Are we past COVID? I mean, should people be concerned about, you know, that or any other kind of thing because we're talking about mass gatherings, right? I mean, certainly the Kwanzaa celebrations where you are in Atlanta, you know, I mean, yeah, everybody limber up before you try to jump in a dance line at a Kwanzaa. We don't want anybody going to Grady or Meharry or, you know, any of those places. But are we past COVID? Are there some things people should be concerned about when they go out in public? Maybe concern for elders or others? What are your thoughts on that? And what are you seeing?
That's a good question. And, you know, really now, so the answer is yes and no. So we are past the point when COVID was as severe as it was when we were introduced to COVID, to the pandemic back in in 2020 and the latter part of 2019. So the form of COVID that we're seeing is generally not as severe. Now, does that mean that people are not being hospitalized and that people do not still die from COVID? No, that's not what that means. There are some people who still are becoming very ill. Generally, people who have pre-existing conditions that make them more susceptible to becoming very ill from COVID. So that is still happening. But I would really frame COVID along with other respiratory conditions. So we're talking about the flu. We're talking about RSV. Which we're seeing as well during this season. And so I would really put the 3 of those together as we think about the respiratory illnesses that we can be exposed to, whether we're in small gatherings or larger ones. Certainly in a larger gathering would be more susceptible. And so to that end, then sure, wearing a mask, particularly if you are, have a chronic condition that would that would impact your immune system. Elders, certainly exercising caution is should be considered in that regard as well. So not past it, but I would say certainly the form of or the way that the disease is exhibiting itself, or the symptoms that people are having, are milder now. I would say also to that end, in terms of protecting oneself from all of those respiratory illnesses that I just mentioned, the flu, COVID, RSV, there actually are vaccines for those. And so it's recommended that, the flu vaccine and the COVID vaccine for most people, and then for RSV for those persons who are particularly at risk. And so of course, generally think about that as being a vaccine that young people get, but then now in the elders, so people who are 60 and over, who have other chronic conditions, and then anyone who's over 75 years of age, regardless of their health status, it would be recommended that they get the RSV vaccine also.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Dr.
And the pneumonia
Kelsey.
vaccine, I didn't mention the pneumonia vaccine as well.
Okay. Well, good. In fact, we'll continue. We're going to continue this conversation on the other side of the break, and maybe ask you about timing. Maybe we want to get those shots, if we're going to get them sooner rather than later, before Bobby Kennedy Jr. gets his hands on vaccine policy in this country. But we're going to come back in a moment with you, Dr. Reba Kelsey, Morehouse School of Medicine, Michael Imhotep, Matt Manning, and I will be back with Dr. Kelsey right after the break. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Be right back.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like, I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books and just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what I'm going to do with it now?
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
We're back. Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black Star Network. Last program of the year for the Fani panel, and we're back with Dr. Reba Kelsey. Check the chat. Looks like folks are getting their vaccine shots. They're getting their various shots. So I think the message is already penetrating, Dr. Kelsey. Let's bring our panel. Matt Manning. Matt, any questions, comments, thoughts in this conversation with Dr. Kelsey?
Yeah, I have a couple questions and a couple thoughts. First are your glasses are fly. I like those. But Truth. I have two questions that are dissimilar, Dr. Kelsey, and hopefully you can shed some light on that. So the first is, you talked a lot about stress, and as an attorney, I deal with stress a lot. That's why I look like I'm longer in the tooth than I am. My question is, what suggestions do you have in terms of dietary responses? Are there specific things we can eat that help counterbalance some of the negative effects of stress, number one? And number two, the question I have is about long COVID. So I was reading recently that there are, I guess, some studies or some recent findings regarding long COVID, its pervasiveness, and how long it's persisting. If you could, would you please elucidate us on what we should be looking for to see if maybe we're suffering from long COVID, how that's turning up, and how people can maybe protect themselves or get treatment if they're unaware that they're suffering from that?
Sure. No, thank you for those two questions. And so the first related to stress and dietary approaches to stress. Certainly we know that fruits and vegetables generally are going to be important to consume. We know that minimizing sugar, and primarily because with sugar, we know that that's going to increase those stress hormones that I talked about, the cortisol hormones. And so with that, and then also with salt to a certain extent because of the impact on the strain that it can place on the heart and the cortisol levels that can be increased because of that as well. So, if you talk about foods that can be helpful, then we would talk about our fruits and vegetables. And then those that would be ones that you would want to minimize are going to be your primarily sugars and carbohydrates as it relates to stress. And then I talked about rest as well. So don't forget that rest is very important in terms of stress minimization. With long COVID, one of the primary things that we're seeing with long COVID is related to our mentation, our ability to concentrate, sometimes some impact on memory as well that we're seeing. There's some people with long COVID also who are exhibiting some respiratory symptoms, continue to have a bit of a chronic cough from long COVID. Now, prevention, not a lot in the way of prevention because COVID itself is really what places one at risk for those longer term effects. However, in terms of managing those symptoms, I know I keep talking about stress, but what we do know is that when we're having challenges with memory, when we're having challenges with concentration, it's worsened with sleep deprivation. So having proper amounts of rest actually does help with that. And there's some research that's still being done as it relates to the kind of cough, the chronic cough and some of the respiratory challenges that one might have with long COVID. Right now, the approaches are primarily around symptom management, but as far as addressing any kind of longer term impacts or worsening of those symptoms, that's still under study.
Excellent. Yes, Mike, please jump on in, brother Hotep.
All right, doctor. Thanks for coming on today. Thanks for incorporating the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, into this conversation as well. We know today is Kujichagulia, self-determination. Couple questions here. Can you talk about how to deal with feelings of loneliness during the holidays? For some people that may have lost a loved one, may have lost a mother or father around Christmas or on Christmas Day. And also talk about those who may be single and may be feeling loneliness on Christmas Day or New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. What are some ways to cope with that? And then also talk about, you mentioned working out and indoor workouts. What are some good indoor workouts people can do? I do Insanity. I work out about 4 to 5 times a week. But what are some good workouts people can do indoors?
Yes. Yeah, now that's a very good question about loneliness. That is something that around the holidays that people do struggle with, particularly those who've had family members who have transitioned either recently or not. Just that thinking about times that were spent historically with loved ones around the holidays. So some of the things that people have found helpful is one to spend some time reflecting on the positive relationship, those the positive elements of those relationships among those who have transitioned. And the other is to plan for this time by identifying those persons who you can spend time with. If there are other family members, or if there are other friends. And so there's some pre-planning in anticipation of some loneliness that one might feel around this time of the year. That's one approach. And as I mentioned, also really spending some time thinking and being intentionally showing some intentional gratitude around the positive relationship that one shared with a mother, or with a father, or a grandmother, or a child even, who may have made transition that they're not able to spend this time with. For those who are single, similarly, to identify other friends, I would say be very careful with social media, because this is an area that in the research they talked about at the beginning of this segment. They talked a lot about Gen Zers and millennials, and part of that is because of the influence of social media and seeing what everyone else is posting, and that whole idea about FOMO, or fear of missing out, or a sense that because you aren't doing some of the same things that people are claiming to do on social media, then feeling a sense of lack in that regard. So those would be some of the tips. So the connectedness that one might feel from social media, that to the extent that might be helpful, engage, but to the extent that it may be harmful, pay attention to your body, pay attention to how you're feeling, and back off of it when that's necessary, and you're feeling that it's doing more harm than good.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Matt. And Dr. Kelsey, before you go, just a kind of unrelated moment, but folks may not know, you are the president of the Southern Region of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, ASCAC.
Oh,
And
ASCAC.
we know ASCAC. Yeah, Mike knows. Yes, sir. She's Southern Regional President. And we know the last day of Kwanzaa, of course, January 1st, is also the birthday of John Henry Clark. The last day of Kwanzaa is his annual birthday. He turns 110 this year. And apparently word on the street is there's some plans for a John Henry Clark kind of celebration to coincide with the regional ASCAC conference. Do you mind sharing with the Roland Martin Unfiltered community and Black Star Network some details about the upcoming regional conference in January?
Absolutely. Yes. No, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share that. So we will be gathering in Columbus, Georgia from January 24th through the 26th for the Southern Regional Conference of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. And we will, in fact, be celebrating the life of Dr. John Henry Clark by celebrating his 110th birth anniversary. The theme of our conference is the deep thought and wisdom teachings of Dr. John Henry Clark, past, present, and future. And so we'll talk about much of what his teachings were and how they apply to current day. There were sadly, some of the challenges that we were experiencing. When we think about, he used to talk about how, we wore socks and underwear that were made by someone else. We should be able to make those undergarments and our clothing and things, and be able to support our businesses. But beyond that, really his true deep scholarship in African history and culture, and how the principles are to be applied or can be applied to present day life, is what we will be discussing and learning more and sharing about during the conference. On Sunday, we will do a special graveside ceremony in honor, again, of his 110th birth anniversary. And so we invite people to come and join with us with the Southern Region of ASCAC. The conference will be held at George Washington Carver High School. Very excited to be there. They will also be celebrating the fact that they are the statewide basketball champions. And so they'll be celebrating that at the school as well. But enjoy, and would certainly invite those to come. We do have a registration. We'll be in person, and for those who want to engage and visit and be a part of the conference online, we will have a virtual component too. And the registration I will share quickly is tinyurl.com/ASCAC. That's ASCACSR for Southern Region 2025 REG. So I know that's supposed to be a tiny URL, but it's a little long. But after the tinyurl.com is ASCAC-SR 2025 REG for registration. And so we look forward to everybody, coming and joining us in Columbus, in person, or in Columbus, Georgia, that is, in person or online. So again, thank you for allowing me to share on that.
Thank you, Dr. Kelsey. And before those Carver folks come after us, it was the football state championship they won. How you at the
Let's say basketball. Oh, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yes, football. Yes, please.
Football.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Boy,
Yes, they're the state football champions. Yeah, no, I don't
want them Georgia Negroes come knocking on your door. It's all right.
Right.
So anyway, all right,
thank
y'all. Of course, I know this is the last day of the year for the Friday panel. So as always, Brother Matt, Brother Michael, and thanks for joining us, Dr. Kelsey. We will see everybody on next Friday. Will be next year. So thanks for joining us tonight. And we will say goodnight. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Keenan. Thanks the entire staff. Roland, get some rest, brother. Oh, and by the way, on the way out, why don't y'all hit that like button? Just go ahead and hit that like button if you can. Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. And with that, we'll sign out the way Roland signs out. Holla.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?